The NFL season is now 17 games long, 18 weeks long. We're going to have 17 games starting the 2021 season. We have had 16 game seasons since 1978, but this is no longer the case. We are now playing 16 games. I think this is all about the money. All the money that was lost in 2021 because of the pandemic, because of not allowing fans into the arena, it has to be recouped some way. And the NFL has agreed to add an extra game to the regular season. They take one of the preseason games away, but preseason doesn't make as much money as regular season. And now we have 17 game seasons. So no more 8-8s, no more 12-4s. I know some players don't like it. I already saw Alvin Kamara spoke out on this, or he tweeted something that he wasn't really in favor of this. And I get it. For the players, it means an extra game. It means an extra chance for you to get hurt, to put your body on the line for 16 games. I've heard it by numerous players that they say the last 4 to 5 games, the last quarter of the season is where it gets tough. You know, you're dragging your body to the finish line. You're playing through injuries. You're not at 100%. No team is at 100%. Everyone's just trying to make it to the finish line. And if you're in the playoffs, then, you know, you have a goal. You have a Super Bowl goal. There's that motivation. But if you're one of those teams that doesn't make it to the end, that doesn't make the playoffs, that you pretty much know your season is done when the season's over. By week 12, you kind of know, all right, this is it. Like, I'm just trying to finish the season, stay healthy, and come back next season. That extra game it probably doesn't feel right. It's probably going to feel long. It's just going to be another game that you're away from your family, but it is what it is. The NFL is about making money. It is a business, and adding an extra game to the regular season is going to bring a lot of profit to the NFL. As a fan, it's mostly positives. We get to see our favorite players for another game. We get to see our favorite teams for another game. We get to enjoy our fantasy football squads for another week. So it's for the fans, it's mostly a positive. You get another chance to see a game that has some meaning, that actually counts. But for the players, I'm pretty sure they're keeping the same game check. Like their contracts are for the season. So I don't believe they're going to make extra money. So it's just an extra game where they could miss out on playoffs, where they're just missing out from their family. Another week of the grueling NFL schedule. So I get why some players would be opposed to it. One of the positives for players, if they want to look at a silver lining, is that now there's more chances to be record holders. Because you have an extra game, because you have another game to go get stats, to go get numbers, records will be broken. I'm talking passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns. All these records are going to be broken just because now there's going to be an extra game. The passing yards, I feel like that one's the easiest, the most likely to be broken. I believe Peyton Manning has the record with 5,500-ish yards. That's going to be broken. I believe 5,000 yards is going to become the new 4,000. Before, it used to be 4,000 yards was like a big achievement. If you were like a quarterback that would go over 4,000 yards, you were looked at as elite. Even in the early, when I started watching football in the early 2000s, middle 2000s, like Carson Palmer, all those players, they would throw over 4,000 yards and they were looked as elite quarterbacks. And for a while, these last few years, we're in this kind of middle area where 5,000 yards is still like a really big achievement. 4,000 yards is just like the norm. But 5,000 yards is not the norm. It's still looked at as a huge achievement. I think with this extra game, 5,000 yards is now going to become the norm. It's not going to be looked at as impressive. It's going to be just 5,000 yards. All right, good for you. And now we're getting to the point where we're going to get close to 6,000 yards, where that's going to be like, oh, who's going to be the first one to get to 6,000? We're becoming a passing league, so it makes sense. We're moving towards a passing, more and more of a passing NFL. So 5,000 will be the norm. Also, I think the rushing yards in a single season is going to get broken pretty soon. Maybe even next season. If Derrick Henry would have had an extra game this season, he would have definitely broken the rushing yards record for a season. the touchdown ones, that's where it gets a little harder. LT has a record with 28, and no one has really gotten close. I think Shady McCoy and LeGarrette Blount are the ones that have gotten the closest, but they were still like eight or at least 8 touchdowns away from actually breaking the record. So I think that one's going to be a little harder. The receiving touchdowns, Randy Moss has it with 22. That one's a little harder. Maybe Devontae Adams, I believe he had 18 in 14 games last season. So maybe he could get to it with an extra, if he would have played those 2 games and now he gets an extra game. But records will be broken. You got to skew the records for 17 games. So that's one of the positives. If you're an NFL player, if you're one of the elite NFL players and you're kind of upset that you're going to play an extra game, that they're making the season longer, one of the positives is that you're going to have a higher chance of breaking a record if you're one of those elite players. If you're just a regular NFL player, middle of the pack, then maybe the 17 game season is just another gruesome game that you have to play. But NFL games mean a lot, so you get another game to audition. I know preseason is usually for those bottom 10 roster spots, but I think in those 3 games, people can still make enough impact to get noticed. But myself, I'm very excited to see the NFL go to 17 games. I think this is the natural progression. I can see the NFL going to 18 games maybe in the next 20, 30 years. But we'll see how it ends up going. I'm very excited for this 17 game season. It's just another opportunity to go to an NFL football game. And I think that would be very exciting.